Ancient Egypt began to be ruled under Hellenistic culture, starting from 305 BC, and succeeded in extending its power to Cyprus, the Aegean coasts, and even Anatolia. However, as queens bearing the name Cleopatra gradually began to gain influence in governance, a series of intrigues led Egypt to slowly weaken, fragment, and ultimately become a province of Rome. The Hellenistic period in ancient Egypt began in 332 BC, when Alexander the Great invaded Egypt, which was then under Persian control. Naming the city he founded on the Mediterranean coast after himself, Alexander declared Alexandria the capital before turning his attention eastward. During his Asian campaigns, Alexander died suddenly in 323 BC. Following his death, Ptolemy, both a close friend of Alexander and a successful general, took control of Egypt. During the wars among Macedonian generals over territorial control, Ptolemy, whose navy was particularly strong, seized several small Aegean islands as well as Crete. As a result, Egypt became one of the dominant kingdoms in Mediterranean maritime trade. Seeking the largest share of this power, Ptolemy I set his sights on the Aegean coasts and Cyprus, which was under the control of ancient Greek states. Initially, Ptolemy established friendly relations with the king of Cyprus and signed trade agreements, strengthening his position against his greatest rival, the Seleucid kingdom. Soon after, the clever general deepened military cooperation with Cyprus and even persuaded the Greeks to launch attacks against the Seleucids. In 305 BC, Ptolemy I proclaimed himself king of Egypt, initiating the Ptolemaic Dynasty, which would rule ancient Egypt for nearly 300 years. In 298 BC, the Kingdom of Cyprus, backed by Egypt, declared war on the Seleucid kingdom and captured the region known as Cilicia Trachea. Approximately 3,000 Egyptian soldiers and a fleet of 24 galleys sent by Ptolemy remained stationed along the Cilician coast, instead of returning. After 4 years of waiting, in 294 BC, taking advantage of the death of the Cypriot king, Ptolemy seized Cyprus, Cilicia, and Phoenicia, realizing his dream of dominating the Mediterranean. He then ordered military reinforcements to the Aegean islands and Crete under his control, and began preparations for attacks along the Aegean coast. After roughly 1 year of preparation, Ptolemy launched an assault on the Aegean territories controlled by King Lysimachus, successfully annexing Smyrna, Ephesus, and the cities of Lycia into Egyptian territory. Having established his dynasty and extended Egyptian dominance to the coasts of Anatolia, Ptolemy I died in 282 BC and was succeeded by his son, Ptolemy II. The new king worked to strengthen and expand the military bases established along the Anatolian coast against the advancing Seleucid kingdom. He also sought to incite the population of Syria against the Seleucids in an attempt to seize northern Syria. The Syrian War, which began in 274 BC and lasted 4 years, saw Ptolemy II clash with Seleucid king Antiochus I. The conflict ended without a clear victor, and a peace treaty was signed in 270 BC. However, widespread rebellions soon erupted in Egypt's Anatolian territories, forcing Ptolemy II to focus on suppressing them, an effort in which he ultimately failed. In 261 BC, Egypt once again faced the Seleucid kingdom. Following heavy losses in battles along the Anatolian coast and in Syria, Ptolemy II was forced to relinquish Ephesus and Smyrna to the Seleucids. Taking advantage of Egypt's weakened state, Greek city-states launched attacks on Crete, capturing the island after a brief conflict. After successive defeats, Ptolemy II withdrew to Lycia and accepted peace, refraining from further wars with the Seleucids until his death in 246 BC. He was succeeded by his son, Ptolemy III, who broke the peace and declared war on the Seleucid kingdom, advancing from Egypt into northern Syria at the head of his army. Despite Macedonian attacks on the remaining Aegean islands and the loss of nearly all of them, the new king did not abandon his Syrian campaign. In the Third Syrian War of 241 BC, Ptolemy III crushed the Seleucid army, capturing Mesopotamia and Antioch. However, widespread rebellions in Egypt forced him to return home, allowing Seleucus II to reclaim all lost territories except Antioch. Although Ptolemy III considered launching another Mesopotamian campaign after suppressing the uprisings, he died before doing so. He was succeeded by his son, Ptolemy IV. During his reign, Egypt experienced a relatively peaceful period with no major conflicts against the Seleucids. Following Ptolemy IV's death, his 6-year-old son Ptolemy V ascended the throne in 204 BC. His young age led to administrative weakness, and Egypt soon fell into crisis. Seizing the opportunity, the Seleucid kingdom declared war in 198 BC, leading to another confrontation in Syria. Facing a Seleucid army of 10,000 with only 6,000 troops, the child king suffered one of the greatest defeats in Egyptian history. Under the terms of the subsequent treaty, Egypt was forced to surrender Syria and all its Anatolian territories to the Seleucids, losing most of its dominance in the Aegean and Mediterranean after nearly a century. Meanwhile, the Roman Republic had begun expanding eastward into Anatolia. With Roman support, the kingdom of Pergamon occupied Seleucid territories in Anatolia. Rome's overwhelming power, which had already shaken all of Europe, posed a growing threat to Egypt. By 120 BC, Roman forces had reached North Africa and stood at Egypt's borders. At the same time, internal dynastic struggles pushed Egypt toward civil war. The repeated enthronement of child kings led to conflicts among regents. During this period, queens bearing the name Cleopatra increasingly gained influence in governance, beginning with Cleopatra II. She ruled jointly with Ptolemy VIII and even controlled half of Egypt. In 131 BC, she expelled her husband from Alexandria and ruled alone for 4 years.